Gopal is here with us, and Gopal is the General Manager and Group Director of Wellness Development at Kamalaya Wellness Sanctuary. That's a very grand title, Gopal. I have known Gopal for many years, and I can tell you he's very knowledgeable in the field. He's been at Kamalaya since 2017. And Kamalaya for me is very close to my heart. Kamalaya was started around the same time as I started Wellbeing Escapes. I think it's almost 20 years for you as well, isn't it, Gopal, that Kamalaya was started. And I've talked about this before, but some of you may know it was a life-changing experience for me when I went to Kamalaya the first time. And I have been back since then. So before we get going, I'm just going to share this little video that we made actually about my last visit, but just to, you can get a feel for Kamalaya if you don't know about it, if you haven't been there yourself. So bear with me while I think. My first visit to Kamalaya Wellness Sanctuary was over 10 years ago and marked a pivotal moment in my own wellness journey. After my consultation with a naturopath, I soon discovered that I was suffering from burnout, both physically and emotionally, and it was something that I had been hiding from myself for many years. The caring team at Kamalaya, with their expert healers, therapists, and naturopaths, guided me gently back towards well-being. So Kamalaya is understandably very dear to my heart. After so many years, I recently returned to Kamalaya feeling much better and in control of my own health. There are so many programs to choose from, ranging from relaxation to fitness to emotional health. This time I chose a structural revival program to help remove those niggly aches and pains that I carry around in my body. The program is designed to realign the body, improve posture, and help with tightness and tension, so it was perfect for me. I followed the detox food plan, which was delicious and kept me very satisfied. I didn't feel like I was sacrificing anything, as there are so many detox choices on the menu and a big upside of a slightly less bloated belly. One of my first treatments was a 3D scan with the excellent physiotherapist who identified my postural issues, then went on to give me an hour of blissful myofascial release. My program unfolded with private reformer Pilates lessons to address my structural weak points, which was my core, holistic massages overlooking the lush tropical fauna and the ocean, and infrared sauna sessions to remove those pesky toxins, and more of that deeply therapeutic myofascial release. In their continuous efforts to improve their offering, the team at Kamalaya have been creating their new longevity house, which offers medical and biohacking treatments. As part of my detox regime, I was given a Cleanse and Purify IV cocktail that includes vitamins B12, B6 and antioxidants, which all help to detoxify the liver and energize. It was clear that every detail about this experience had been thoroughly considered. Another experience at the Longevity House was the hyperbaric oxygen chamber, where I breathed in pure oxygen for 90 minutes. Why, you may ask? Well, it speeds up recovery from exercise, which slows down as you age, and reduces inflammation by facilitating the growth of new blood vessels. This is not for those that suffer from claustrophobia, but if you are up for having a little nap or meditating while you heal to get energized, I would definitely recommend it. You can even take your phone in if you want for a little bit of distraction. I have to say that my overall experience was even better than my first. The biggest highlight for me are the professional but caring therapists and staff throughout the whole resort. There is such a warmth and connection from the team that it's difficult to teach and emulate. Whatever you choose to do at Kamalaya, the place itself is blissful, and you will come away feeling rejuvenated and very well looked after. Oh, to be at Kamalaya right now. Oh my goodness. Okay, take me back. Gopal, formally welcome. Very nice for you to be with us today. I'm delighted you're here. So thank you for your time. So what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about the vagus nerve. So can we start with like a very basic question? Can you please start by explaining what actually the vagus nerve is and why it has become such a hot topic in recent years?
Thank you, Stella. I think that is a very relevant question to begin with, because often, and we don't expect everybody to understand the biology of the vagus nerve, but at least the positioning and where and how it travels and why then, of course, it has a certain impact. So to begin, we have 12 cranial nerves in our body. And when I say cranial nerves, means they travel from brain down. And vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve, which is the longest cranial nerve in the body. And believe it or not, it is not a recent discovery. It is basically 2nd century by somebody called Galen, who had researched. And then in the 1880 to be precise, it was then further researched that where does and how does the vagus travels and why it has certain impacts on our body. And it was known at early stage as pneumogastric nerve, because it was first discovered that it was traveling down to the abdomen and the pelvic area. So they felt that it had only impact that, the brain was sending signal to the gut, and that's where it was signaling back. But then later they, of course, continued to do several research, where in 1930, they discovered that it has effect on our central nervous system and synchronizing actually a lot of brain activity. And then, of course, the research continued to widen until now. So that's a little bit of background. And now to explain that where it travels, it is actually originating from the brain stem, which is the medulla oblongata in our brain stem. Brain stem in a literal, if you go through too much of biology, it's going to take a long time. But just to explain, brain stems means the neurons sending signal, means communicating back and forth. Wherein vagus has a unique point that it's not only sending signal down to your lungs, to your heart, to your stomach, then intestine, large intestine, small intestine, and down to the private parts, but it's also sending signal back. And that is what it does. That, for example, we are going through a stressful moment. It's the vagus that is going to tell you that, oh, okay, you got to switch from parasympathetic to a sympathetic. When we eat, you are chewing, you're swallowing. What we are doing right now, speaking, what happens in our gut, what happens in our spleen, all of those signals are actually sent back. Now, a lot of time people think that it's known as the parasympathetic nerve, but on the other hand, it's also carrying a lot of sympathetic signals as well. Now,
can I just ask a question quickly? I'm going to stop you for a second. For people who don't know what sympathetic and parasympathetic is, because we use that a lot around the nervous system, but let's just take a step back and explain that for us.
Would you like me to explain that a little bit?
Yes, please. Yes.
So basically, parasympathetic is where we are in rest and digest system, means we are at a balance, where the body is at a balance in a homeostasis situation. Where the sympathetic is where we are in a fight and flight situation, where we are rushing, where we are trying to think and we are trying to be overactive. So what it is, we would like to be in a more parasympathetic state rather than a sympathetic state. And now today's world, when we say that, for example, many people, when you put them on a stage, they go into a sympathetic state because you're really like, okay, you're trying to be alert, you're trying to be, and that's what the drive is. Same time when you're in a board meeting, for example, you're always in a very sympathetic state because you're really like, you're trying to be alert, you're trying to all of that kind of stuff, that, oh, I need to say something, I need to prove something, all of that kind of stuff. So that is what in literal meaning that is. And for me, I would say that anything when we overdrive, that is sympathetic. uh, and when we are in a creative situation, when we are in a balance, that is parasympathetic situation.
So
The
is
rest
it better that is it best that we're in a parasympathetic,
they,
or is it best that we have the bit of
basically,
both?
like what you call in children, when you see you have the swing
The
that you go
seesaw.
up,
Yeah.
seesaw, right? And
Yeah.
that is what you need to bring. You need to bring into the balance that you are right, and that is what Vegas does. That a lot of time people think that it's only a parasympathetic, but it's also wake up. It wakes your brain. It's sending signal from adrenaline sometime to say that, oh, you need to wake up. You need to, so but it the whole idea is to, the seesaw is at a balance rather than up and down. If you want to be down, you want to be more on a parasympathetic. But again, depending on the situation, depending on all of that kind of stuff, you want to ensure that you are at that balance. And that's what literally Vegas does, that it brings the seesaw of parasympathetic and sympathetic, but always emphasizing towards the parasympathetic more.
Okay, so for example, if we're exercising, we're going out for a run or we're exercising, we're in sympathetic. That doesn't necessarily mean it's bad.
Absolutely, that's it. Yes,
that's good. But
same
then we
time,
need to influence it with the parasympathetic.
Same time, like a lot of time, people do not know, again, because of the biology, that actually the vagus is the one which is going to be picking up the signals from your adrenal glands and the neurons in excess, and then going to be sending to the brain to say wake up. So that's also the function of it. Now, so many times, for example, people, when we do yoga or anything exercise, why do we warm up? Actually, the warm up idea is, it's actually to say to the vagus nerve to say that, okay, I need to switch. My adrenaline needs to now produce the adrenaline to ensure that I'm able to exercise. And that is where that you start to warm up, you jump, you do burpees, all of that kind of little stuff. And the signal is going through from the adrenal back to the vagus, which is then through the brainstems telling the other hemisphere to say that wake up.
Oh, wake up, get your body ready, we're going to do something. So it's signaling. So the vagus nerve is signaling to the body, produce adrenaline so that we can do ABC. So that is for like physiological, like, when you're doing exercise or when you're moving. But how about it when you're in a like stress mental state? So as you mentioned, you're going into a board meeting, or you're, you're presenting, or you're in a stressful conversation with a loved one or whatever. How does
well, I hope loved one is not a stressful situation.
Well, sometimes that happens, believe it or not.
So see what happens. There are several ways. The HRV. Now, in yogic philosophies, actually, just to give you a little bit of background, what happens when we are breathing? When we are breathing, a diaphragm moves down, right? When you're inhaling, your diaphragm moves down, your lungs, alveoli expands, and the heart actually gets a little bit more space. And fascinating science, when heart gets a little bit more space, the flow increases. When the flow increases, the heart rate increases. And that's where we're going to talk about the HRV a little bit more. So when that happens, the flow happens and your heart rate beat increases because it got more space, like boom, 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 like that sort of stuff. But same time, when you exhale, your heart gets a little constricted, which is good. And then the heart recognizes, and same thing, because vagus is connected from the left-hand side, sends a signal to say that, oh, okay, now it has a constricted space, so then the heart rate is going to go down. So what happens when we are in that sympathetic state, not through, I'm just saying like, but internally you could put your hand on your heart and you will see the heart rate is beating. Means your diaphragm actually, you are on more longer inhales rather than exhaling. And that is what happens when you are in a panic board meeting, any of that uncomfortable situation. You inhale more, rather than exhaling more. And that's where scientifically then your heart rate goes higher, not the variability, the heartbeats is going higher. And that's the reason that you're putting yourself in a bit of sympathetic situation. Same thing happened now, for example, when you do a HIIT exercise. But then what we were talking about, the seesaw, that's a good balance, that you are running in not a mental fatigue state, but physical state, to say that you want your heart rate to go up. And then later on, you're going to work it down. That's why it's called interval, that you're going to bring it down and then you're going to take it up. You're going to take it down. So that's where your VO2 max plays an important role, again, connected. So there's several factors that goes in this mechanism. Yes.
But we'll talk about it. I'm going to pin you down to explain what VO2 max is and HRV in detail, because that's a very important subject. But I mean, I think generally the whole idea about why the vagus nerve and conversations about the vagus nerve have become more prevalent recently is that we are, in our Western society, and maybe even in the East now too, are living more in a sympathetic state than in a parasympathetic state, right? So we have become much more driven, and we're always producing, and we're always doing, and we can't sit still, and all of those things. And that has created this situation where we're having to learn why the vagus nerve is an important aspect of our health, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that what you're seeing when people are coming to Kamalaya? People are just in overdrive?
More and more, yes, absolutely. And I think you see, I think 2008, of course, was probably for this century was a kind of big thing where financial world, economy world shifted a lot. People went a lot more inwards in a wrong way, wherein we would always prefer that you go inwards for soul searching, where inwards here is like, okay, no, I need to control things, right? And that is what in COVID, like, we lost control. We were like, oh my God, we are this kind of species. We need to talk, we need to do business, we need to travel, we need to all. But suddenly, like, somebody else is controlling us and we want to be in our control. And that is what the sympathetic is, that you think that you want to be in a control situation all the time. And then this drive of pushing, the drive of, the extrovert drive that continuously putting pressure on us to do better, to have a financial stability, to have a better economy situation, to have all of that's a constant drive. And that is what, when I said that the overdrive, you don't need to be in overdrive. What you can control, you can control, absolutely. But what you can't control, don't try, because you're just going to be wasting all your energy, your efforts, your time, all of that when you do things you can't control. And that is where you need to say that, okay, that's out of control. I don't need to push it to the limit that I'm going to, what you mentioned in your video, it was over burnout, right? It was right after COVID, couple of years. So you were in that situation that, what's going to happen to the business? What's going to happen? That, the drive just becomes overdrive, that you lose control, and then you start to burn the candles from both the sides, and you lose the balance completely. And that's what the adrenaline burnout is, that where people just do not recognize that, okay, where is the limit and how do I set boundaries? And same time, yes, you can push yourself, but where are you recovering? Where are you replenishing? Where are you nurturing? And that is what Kamalaya does, that we remind people that it's okay to run your $1 billion business, but it's a time when you come to us, or you come to us once or twice a year, replenish that. So you have that energy to go and give back, rather than you're depleted and you keep giving out. And then, of course, the inflammation, the cardiac arrest, the strokes, all of these kind of
all those illnesses that come from it. I think the key here is, and we'll talk about it as we go along too, is that most people don't know they're in overdrive. That's the issue, because it's become totally normalized. So they don't understand. I mean, I didn't realize myself. I've been on my own whole big journey with this, and I think it becomes your normal. It becomes your normal. Yeah. So then you think, okay, this is just life. This is who I am. It's fine. I'm coping. I'm okay. I can exist. So it has become that. And people don't realize until something physical happens to them what has really been going on. And I think that is the key here. And sometimes, you know, it's never too late, because you can go back and change all that. But it is about that recognition. So why did you get, because I know you've studied this subject a lot, I know you've done a lot of training on it, why did you do this at Kamalaya? Tell me why you've done that at Kamalaya.
So first of all, as you know, I'm Indian, and so I've studied a lot of Ayurveda back in early days. I've worked with many Ayurvedic doctors, and of course I practiced yoga myself. I used to teach yoga in early days. And in yoga and Ayurveda, we actually learned that there are two nerves, Ida and Pingala. Now, Ida and Pingala is a Sanskrit name, and many people may have heard, many people may have not heard. And again, I'm going to give a little bit of story why, because Ida is a parasympathetic, more of a moon energy, where Pingala is a sympathetic, more of a sun energy. But they form these subtle energy pathways for the body to be in that seesaw. But they are directly communicating with the vagus nerve, because as we were just discussing, that you need to be in that balance state, while vagus is your primary communicator for these two factors. Now, Ida is on the left side of the body, but handling your right side of the brain. Now, right side of the brain is what? Imaginary, creative, emotions, all of that. Pingala is the right side of the body, but managing your left side of the brain, which is more logical. Now, we need both. We need that, you know, the homeostasis with the internal environment. And that is where I came to know first. You know, when I was doing anatomy, of course, we learned about vagus a little bit, that, okay, this is the cranial nerve and all of that kind of stuff. But you don't go so much in anatomy classes, you don't go so much detail, because it's not only focused on the vagus, but that's where we learn. But then in Ayurveda and yoga, when I learned that, okay, that's what it is. And that's how the vagus is connected, to, of course, from the prefrontal cortex into these two. And that is where you need to have this balance. So that's where, and I continue to do this. And then if you see in Kamalaya, for example, what we were just talking about, that we really want to bring people to that balance. We want people to understand that parasympathetic state is a highly important state, at least when you are here. Now switch off and switch on to that kind of state. So we've been doing it through, of course, nutritional food, the pranayama, which we're going to go a lot more detail, the meditation, the yoga, the exercise, mindfulness, all of that. But then, now there is a need that where people think that, okay, we need to have a deeper modality. So the idea was actually, when I was doing the cognitive house, that it leads very much to the longevity, that for us, and it is literally the right meaning. The longevity means that you become aware of your body and you take preventative action. It's not you take proactive, or you take active action, but more of a proactive actions to say that I'm going to be living a healthy span of life for a whatever period that is. It's not about lifespan, it's about health span. And that is where we were doing it. And we recognized, and I recognized that, okay, listen, a lot of people understand that, yes, this is the importance, but they needed a little bit more expertise, more modality. And that's where my study was more that how to activate the vagal tone. How can we externally, with non-invasive methods, although we are doing non-invasive methods through breathing and all of that kind of stuff, but how can I ensure that, okay, there is a lot more faster? Because now, of course, the world is getting into that. Oh, while I'm listening to a podcast or I'm working, how can I activate my vagal tone, or how can I activate my vagus nerves? And then that led me into a non-invasive methods where we use an arcular from the inner ear, a brain neuromodulation method, which activates the vagus nerve. So there's a lot of several parts, that dots you're trying to connect into something which is becoming a demand for today.
Okay, so this is, so just to put that in context, you've opened, I showed on the video, the longevity house where you're doing the IVs and the hyperbaric and all the biohacking. Mm-hmm. But you've also opened the cognitive house, which is very much to do with this vagal tone, as you call it.
Yeah.
And so so you have all the different practices that you have always done at Kamalaya, and which many of us know about, breath work, pranayama, as you say, mindfulness, all these things to take us into the parasympathetic state. Yeah. But on top of that, you have tools and you have equipment that help stimulate the vagal tone. And there is, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of this on them. I'm very interested in this subject because I have low HRV, and we could talk about that later. And we'll discuss what HRV is. But so I'm very personally interested in this subject. And I've seen these machines. There's one called NeuroSim. I've seen advertised. And there's lots of these ones that help activate that. So you kind of put on these headphones or whatever, and it automatically activates it. I mean, they're not, they're accessible. But is that the kind of thing you're doing at Kamalaya then? Is that those similar types?
You see, like we said that we had other holistic methods. Now, same thing. Neuromodulation is a holistic method also. That basically it's not a headphone. There are small electrodes that are giving a minor electric stimulation to a particular part of the auricular. Now, when we look at the anatomy or the biology of the vagus nerve, because it's starting from the brain stems, the medulla oblongata, and traveling down. So this is where it originates, particularly on the left-hand side, because left-hand side, we have to remember, is responsible for parasympathetic, right? That's one. Second is, a lot of people, they may think, yes, the brain is a lot on the left side, but it's actually a little bit on the center, going over the middle of the ribs, but yes, very little on the right, but more on the left. Same thing happens with the stomach, and then when you go down to the large intestine, all of that kind of stuff. So from the auricular, which actually stimulates a little electric stimulation at the origin of the vagus. So that is what it does, the transcranial vagus nerve stimulation, which is a neuromodulation, that you are sending that electric stimulation. Occasionally we recommend people that you can do 2 times a week, 3 times a week, 1 time per week, whatever, but at least minimum 1 to 2 times. For at least a 60-minute, and you can do it while cooking, while reading, while watching TV, all of that kind of stuff. That so what happens? The impact is higher. So same thing what we do, like for example, when we give you an IV within a program, we are expediting the result. So that is what the transcranial vagus nerve stimulator is doing, is expediting what you're doing all together. With the neurofeedback, you're doing with the massage, we're doing the foot massage, all of that kind of stuff. When you're activating it, you're supporting it like a supplement, and that is what the whole purpose was. Plus, same time, educate people, because we've been educating people that to listen, don't spend too much time. I recommend people do 12 Surya Namaskar every day, between 1 to 2 minutes, kind of stuff, one cycle. So if you can't dedicate 30 minutes, then what else can you dedicate to your health? But it's hard for people to say, oh my God, I don't have time. And excuses can come up. Now, the meditation, breath work, between literally 5 minutes to 15 minutes of pranayama. But then people find that, oh, I don't have time. And that's where these modalities actually helps. And it was invented by a German psychiatrist in 1930. It's not a very latest, all hearing about it. But it was basically to understand that this small electric stimulation actually activates the neuromodulation pathways and neural pathways in the brain, and helps you to be in more parasympathetic. Now, in the movies we may have seen, and I'm sorry, when you see a mental hospital and there's a patient, they give you the electric shock, right? They're giving you a higher voltage. What they're trying to do, they're trying to build that neuron connection that the electricity is lost with that current that is going to give a spark, and then the whole neural function is going to work, and you're going to be like, okay, I'm in my right state. So this is a gentle electric stimulation, mild, FDA approved, absolutely fine for depression, anxiety, to be in this homeostasis kind of environment. And so that's what we are trying to do, that we are trying to keep up with that electricity in the neurons. And that's what it is called, neuromodulation.
Interesting. That's really, thank you for shedding light on that. So that's really interesting. As you were speaking, I was thinking it's so interesting. You were saying people always come up with excuses because they don't want to allocate time to these practices, you know, whether it's yoga or breath work or meditation, or but they do allocate time to fitness and exercise. And again, it very much typifies our Western lifestyle of go, 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 action, action, physical, physical, and we can't allow our minds to, but then it causes these issues. So this little technique, this neuromodulation?
Neuromodulation, yes.
Yeah.
Transcranial vagus nerve stimulation.
It's perfect for people like that who can't bring themselves to actually do that.
But I hope they don't do it while weightlifting. That's all.
Oh, what's that? Say that again. I lost you for a second.
I hope they don't use that while weightlifting in the gym.
Oh yeah, not while weightlifting. They have to do it while like just doing gentle movements. Absolutely. Or So I think this is like a neuromodulate. So it's perfect for people who want to who can't do those other things, but then when they come to Kamalaya, they have that and all those other things, and it's just like kind of it's the wrong analogy, but it is vagal tone on steroids almost, isn't it? Because it's like giving everything, throwing everything at it to really show the difference and get people into this state of balance.
And there is a reason for it. For example, neural pathway or neural activity, once you put people on that pathway and they are in that hormonal state of right balance of dopamine to say that, oh, I'm feeling good, I don't need caffeine, I'm feeling energetic because of that, I'm feeling relaxed because of that. So what our purpose is actually is that we are educating them that, okay, how does this state feels, how does this state makes you a better human? Now, would you not want to continue with these few tools? Because, for example, several people actually even forget. I mean, you when you came, you were like, oh my God, I don't know if I will be able to ever actually feel relaxed, right? Because your state completely is gone, and that's where we try and put them on that.
Yeah, but the thing is, you think you're relaxed, but you're not, and that is the key. That is the key. So this is what I want to move on to now, to HRV, because HRV for me was the big sign that it wasn't. I wasn't relaxed. Okay, and this is the point, because we do things and we feel like we're relaxed and we have our routines and we do our fitness and we do this and we do our. You know, I've done yoga for 20 years. I meditate, but I still have a low HRV. So it's a really interesting situation. So let's talk about HRV. Can you explain to people exactly what HRV is, please?
So first, in a very simple language, it is, you know, the heartbeat per second. Now, HRV is a variability. It's not a heartbeat. It's basically the gap between the seconds. Now, for example, when we going to sleep, you will see some days you go to sleep very quickly. Some days it's hard to, and I tell people generally just put your hand on your heart and see how is it doing. I hope people can hear me. Or is it doing So you see the gap between the two heartbeats in the second. You want that to be not stable, but more rhythmic, and a little bit of gap there to have the variability. Means your heart is at that ease of like, then may at some time,
so it varies in that space between the heartbeat varies.
Absolutely, you know, seconds between the heartbeat rather than you know, like that. And they say, oh yeah, it happens a lot. And I say, okay, same time, supposedly you wake up in the night and then you suddenly, your brain is running. Just notice your heart rate. What is it? I don't Yes, variables are fine, all of that, but I personally have used it. For me, they are actually distracted, because then in the nighttime you're checking, you're looking, okay, how does it beat? No, rather than you have your hand, your breath, all of that kind of stuff. Then see that, okay, is it running too fast? That means the heart is beating too fast. That means it's in that sympathetic state, it's in that thinking, it's in that active state. And that is what you have to remember. That's what the heart variability is, in a simple, really a simple.
Simple state. So why does that happen in the middle of the night for some people, and they wake up and they're, because usually when you wake up, your heart rate increases anyway. In the morning, your heart rate increases, your temperature increases, all of that. Just
see, there is a very good catch. You said in the morning your heart rate is higher, right?
Yeah.
It's very much related to your cortisol hormones and the circadian cycle. That is where lot of people forget that when you were running on a high cortisol, it's automatically in the nighttime, the dark, all of that kind of stuff, the melatonin kicks in, the cortisol starts to shift. But then your cortisol is so high that after midnight or after certain hours of deep sleep, your cortisol kicks in. That is what it is. In the morning, your cortisols are high because they are basically an actionable hormones. Right? And that is where they will say that, oh, I'm waking up, need to do action, all of that kind of stuff. Heart beat more. You sending that signal through that hormone. And then melatonin, suppresses. So that is where people who've been running on that high note, you have to understand that for those people particularly, you have to really remove the screen time, business times, all of that kind of stuff, mindful eating, all of that. You have to really shift into right circadian cycle to ensure that the cortisol understands that, okay, my time is finished, the melatonin time is coming in, and then I'm going to be shifting. And then as the sun rises, the circadian cycle has that shift. You start to wake up, a cortisol starts to rise. And that is where it is all related, that, oh, okay, if you were in a parasympathetic when you were sleeping, that mind is clear. I did my 5 minutes of breath work. I switched off my lights. I said to my phone after 9 o'clock, thank you very much. So that next 1 hour, I'm not going to be looking at it. So then the thoughts are not fed in. I'm going to be away from the screen time. I'm going to be reading. I'm going to be in that zone. So then the cortisol shift will happen, that you're going to delay it. Now, at older age is completely a different ball game, because the cortisol shift has been spoiled, that it starts to wake up, people start to wake up from 3 o'clock onwards. But then again, many elderly who've lived a healthy life, all of that kind of stuff, they will do mindful things then if they wake up at 4 o'clock, rather than trying to go back to a screen or trying to scratch your head and all that kind of stuff. If it is happening, don't fight it, because if you're fighting it, means you're putting your state into a game, rather than activate the parasympathetic through the breath work, through the the body scanning, because you're distracting your mind to say, okay, I'm going to be thinking about my toes, I'm going to be thinking about my knees, that body scan yoga that you've seen, all of those techniques, then that works. Because then if it is literally that state, then you're going to shift away. So
okay. So the question I have to you also then is, so I have a wearable, right? So lots of people have these wearables, and they start to measure HRV, and they take HRV, that variation of heartbeat, at night. They take that as the key to what your HRV should be. So they're measuring nighttime HRV instead of daytime HRV. Why is that?
See, because why nighttime? Because we at least want to be at least a deep relax. That's what it is. So if your heart rate variability, although you may be sleeping, maybe, I hope not with the substances, but because mentally drained, tired, everybody will have at least 2 to 3 hours of sleep. Doesn't matter how bad they are. In the whole night, in these 8 to 9 hours, everybody is going to have 2 to 3 hours. That's the worst scenario. Now, in that scenario, you slept because your body needs that rest, right? And you just crashed. Now, but if you were running in that whole sympathetic and the vagus was on a higher tone, this dudum, or dudum, the beat between the second did not shift. That means you actually not going to have your 15 to 20% of deep sleep. No, you're not going to have 20% of 15 to 20% of, between 15 to 20% deep sleep, between 15 to 20% is REM sleep. These are two very, very important part. That means there will be imbalance and you will have a very broken deep sleep throughout. Why? Because the heart was continuously working, and that is why the night heart rate variability is highly important to understand, that does your body goes into that homeostasis or no?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, that means you're running on a high cortisol. That means you are always in the sympathetic zone. That's why.
So a lot of people have, I mean, a lot of people have had high cortisol, don't know it basically, but you can see it through these patterns. Now, I have experimented with this ring because I can get real life data from it, I guess. Yes. And through my experimentation, I have seen that when I have a peaceful evening, when I finish work early, when I'm not on my phone, when I'm not watching anything like action movies on TV or anything too violent or anything like that, that really activates, you know, I'm in a peaceful state. I go for a gentle walk. I go for an early night. I do some, you know, breathing before I go to sleep. I read a bit. My HRV is much higher than when it's the opposite. Absolutely. If I'm if I go to a party, if I do something, if I drink alcohol, if I eat late, my HRV drops, and I've seen like the real life around that. It's really interesting. Now, I mean, you know, we're human and we're not going to do that every single day, but it gives us an indication. I mean, that's the thing, but it really shows you. I mean, like you say, put your hand on your heart. I think wearables are in our world where we need data and we want to like understand that. That's what it is. So yes, that's really that's really what it's about. So let's get into some ideas of what we can do. What kind of, apart from the neuromodulation devices, what kind of techniques can we do to help us activate our vagal tone?
And I must tell you, 100% people will know already, in whoever is listening to it. Social connection, we were talking about. Social connection is very, very important. And for heart variability, because, you know, heart is like when I'm insecure, when I'm in the hype. If you are sitting in a board meeting with fabulous people, you have that social connection, your heart is going to beat differently. So that's very important. Laughter, we forget. You know, in India, in the parks, you go in the mornings, and after these, you will see. But it's only, the only pity is that these people are like 70 and plus. They're laughing like all of them, you know, they're just pretending to laugh for that next 5 minutes. And where the other who have not retired are not laughing. Where now you've retired and you're trying to laugh because you want to really activate that vagus, you know, vagal tone. Gratitude, being thankful for what we have, doesn't matter how much and at what quality and what quantity. At the end of the day, when you, before going to sleep, if you say 5 gratitude things to yourself, your heart rate variability, you know, your heartbeat is going to go down, your breath is going to stabilize, and it's going to give you that balance in the vagal tone. Now, Om chanting, why? There is a scientific reason, by the way, and we at Kamalaya, we explain that 7 o'clock every morning, we have chanting every day. We explain it from a frequency point of view, that why we need to build you on that frequency. Now Om word, A-O-M, of course, O-M, a lot of people pronounce that, but it has 3 variations. Om. You're starting from your abdominal area. You're going into the center of your body and to the cranial part. That is where O-U-M. The longer M you do, the vagus nerve or the vagal tone is going to understand that, oh, okay, I'm getting activated, because that's where it is originating, the brain cells originating. Same thing, there is a very phenomenal, powerful tool, a pranayama called Brahmari. If you know, it's very easy. Brahmari can be in 2 ways.
Can you show us quickly?
I can show you quickly. One variation is that you are sitting in a dark room, there's no other noise, that is not even an air conditioning noise, please. I like some people think, oh, air conditioning noise or heating or whatever, that no, there should not be no noise. So you can do like, and I'm going to explain you that second version, which is you close your eyes with your index finger. With the second finger, you press a little bit around the nose. The ring finger goes above, on your upper lips, and the last fingers goes while the thumb closes the loop on the ear. So you press that, yes, and then you do now maybe participant would like, don't close your eyes and probably just close the loop from the ear, that you don't hear anything, and then just do humming sound.
Just hum with your yeah. You feel the vibration in your head.
Absolutely. You feel the vibration in both the hemisphere, and then the vagal nerves, understand that, oh, okay, you're trying to balance it. You're trying to tone it. So really, this one is a phenomenal. Now, a lot of time people in that, like sometime, whatever is that you're suddenly in a sympathetic situation, or nighttime also, for example. There are two types of breath. One is you do, and then you inhale one more time through the diaphragm, and then do long exhale from the mouth. You can do a couple of times. You can do from the nose also. The exhale, longer the exhale is, we have to remember, because that is what it is. Longer the exhale is, the heart is shrinking. Remember when we were talking about at the earlier, that when we are inhaling, the heart is going to get more flow because it has more space. So the heart is going to beat faster. The blood is. But when you exhale, so longer exhales. We also do this technique called, 4-6-8.
Yeah, that's Dr. Andrew Weil, isn't it? But it's interesting, as you were saying that, the 4-6-8, I do that at night.
Yes, and that's phenomenal before you go into the bed.
Yeah, I breathe in for 4, hold it for 6, and then breathe out for 8. So I do that at least 5 times. But that is interesting as you were talking, because these ancient Ayurvedic practices were around way before Dr. Andrew Weil developed that, and he developed that for veterans, right, in the States who had PTSD, and he was helping them regulate themselves. It's really interesting. So all these new scientific things and these machines and all these things that we've created now to have quick results, Ayurveda has been talking about it for thousands of years.
But you see, PTSD is again a typical form of hyperactivity, right? That person is living in that and they don't know how to utilize. Now for PTSD, if you put them on, the Hatha Yoga, phenomenal. You see in 2 weeks' time. But what happens in pharmaceutical, we don't want to tell them that these are easy way to balance the PTSD or the ADHD for children, because those people are gifted with higher energy. You need to find them where can they focus on that energy rather than just wasting somewhere else. That's what it is. Yeah.
So we have so we've got the humming. The
humming, absolutely phenomenal.
Ears, you can cover the eyes like this and then hum. Absolutely. Or you can do the
but the M longer. Always remember M.
Always longer.
M is from the cranial part. That's what it is. Now,
so hear the vibration, and then you can do the 4-6-8, or the breathe out a lot. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
The breathe out one, I generally, there are 2 ways. I would, if somebody is finding it very difficult to sleep, I will tell them that go deeper in one inhale and go long exhale. But in a daytime, for example, if you're having a moment like, okay, my God, I need a caffeine, then you do that, the shift, like, and then you do, and then hold it, and then 5 times, you will see your energy level suddenly jump up, because that's what the vagal will tone. So in the nighttime, I generally don't recommend people, and we don't recommend people to have the 2 inhale. I would rather recommend that have the slow inhale, 6 time, 8 time, 10, like 6, 8, 10 or 4, 6, 8, that variation. But in daytime, the 2 inhale and the long exhale, whenever you're having that moment of you want to write a bad email, you want to phone somebody, you just having that moment, that one works phenomenally well, scientifically.
Okay.
A lot of research on that one.
That's good.
Then cold, now again, I think it's a very new thing. Of course, cold plunges have been for ages, but then suddenly this thing started to come in the morning, and especially in the morning, where people were dipping their face in the ice water or cold water, because of course they didn't have cold plunges at home and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's also phenomenal, because we have receptors, around our body, on the face, I beg your pardon, and along this cranial nerve that is running behind the neck, that it's the moment, the cold compression comes on the face, the cranial sense the nerve, that, okay, we're going to, relax. So that's also fantastic for people.
That's really interesting, Gopal, because when I go to the doctor, the hairdresser, completely different.
Yes.
I ask them, or sometimes at home when I do it, when I'm washing my hair, I ask them to put cold, like to rinse my head with cold. And yes, it's good for the scalp and the hair and all of that, but it takes me into this deep state of relaxation when I have cold on my head and the back of my neck. And
absolutely. Long exposure, because of course the head is a very strong part, but the skin is very thin. So we don't generally recommend that you have long exposure, particularly on the top of the head. But behind, at the occipital area, is phenomenal, because there is a pituitary point here that if you actually, when you're doing the cold immersion, you bend your neck a little bit to get it at, where the hairline starts. You want that point to really come into the cold exposure, because that's where the main receptors are. So it does not, compromise your immune system, but sends that kind of neuron signal to build immunity. So, and that is how it happens as well, that, when you rinse the face, the water goes along the neck a little bit. And that's where the vagal tone happens. Very, very beneficial.
So wash your face with cold water or plunge it into cold water.
And I think in European countries, it's easy. You don't need to get ice or anything. You just turn your non-heating right, and you get really the last bit, typically like that, and then just little around the neck, and you will see that happens. Now, other things are, of course, movement. Movement can happen in both. You have, when you want the vagus to be toned, for example, you want the brain to wake up, you do a brisk jump. That means supposedly you're going to go into some meeting and you're like, oh my God, I'm not really up for it, or I'm not ready to focus on that. And I want a wake up call. People there is a lot of scientific research, by the way, that, when you activate the vagus at that, the brain will wake up, because it's going to send the signal. You do 5 jumps with your hand raised, and so people can do it. And then
up and down with your hands raised, up and down, jumping up and down.
Absolutely, like that. And you jump as well. 5 jumps. Suddenly the receptors are going to work from the adrenaline. It's going to send a signal to say, wake up. And then you don't need that caffeine then in the morning. And it's actually good that every 2 hours, if you do 5 jumps in a day, you're moving your body, you're moving your blood flow, your heart rate goes a little bit up, your brain wakes up, rather than, I'm going to be sitting on that lethargic desk and I'm just going to be sipping those, shots of coffee, which is actually giving you a caffeine kick rather than a natural enzyme that is going to come in. So that is also there, that the vagal tone can actually activate the brain as well. So there are both ways you can have that balance.
There's one question here, actually. It's a good question about the cold water while swimming, the cold water bathing. Is that, because we talked about it with the head area, the back of the neck and the face, but that's good for HRV, right? Heart rate.
Absolutely. It is good for the HRV, because what will happen when you come out of it, it's that time, of course, the adrenals are rushing when you are in it, because the body is sending that thermal signals to say that I'm in cold, protection needed, right? So the heart is going to beat faster. That's absolutely fine. But you will realize it. You come out of the cold, and we're going to talk about the 2 cold immersions. You come out of the cold, don't put towel for at least next 1 to 2 minutes. Let the body settle into the own zone. And then the body is going to recognize that, oh, okay, I have come out of it, rather than you trying to cover it and making it warm from the towel. And then actually you're not letting
Oh,
the
that's
body
good
go.
to know.
Yes, absolutely. At least 1 to 2 minutes when you come out of an ice bath, don't do anything. Just stand there. You can do a little bit movement, but don't cover it and all of that kind of stuff. Same thing. Don't go rinse it off. No, let the body come into natural state, and then you will see if you are wearing your HRV, either ring or the Whoop band, you will see that, okay, how quickly the heart starts to come back, because that is what its original state is. The homeostasis state is.
Mm.
And so swimming is not for everybody. Now, we came from a different world, whilst Arctic people came from a different world. They have a very different skull compared to our skulls. Generally, we do not recommend people who are not exposed to keep the skull exposed to the similar temperature. Is not that beneficial unless and until you were in that, in your genes were
Your
really
genetics, yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Otherwise, it's up to the neck. The best part is up to the neck and a little tilted to get the pituitary point, behind the neck into this. And then towards the end, you splash, some cold things, or you can dip your face without a skull, for half a minute or 20 seconds like that. You just hold it and you put yourself, and your body is in there and your face is in there. That's also phenomenal. But generally, we do not recommend long exposure from the skull.
Yeah, just quick. Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Wonderful. Wow.
A lot of people, they like to do 1 minute. And I tell them that, I say, listen, 1 minute to start is very good, but 3 minutes is ideal. 3 minutes is really ideal. And if you focus on the diaphragm breathing while you're inside, and you will see your body is going to get into that state. I mean, people can go up to 5.
Well, they start off with cold showers. I think that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, this is a different conversation. We'll do another session on cold.
We have a range of supplements that we recommend. Probiotics, prebiotics are highly important. Fatty fish are highly important. Mediterranean diets are very important. All of those, which generally is anyways a healthy thing, is good for your brain, is good for the body.
So omega-3 is a good one.
Now, I think there is awareness that is coming in, because our body picks up and keeps omega-6. And I don't know if you know that there is generally a ratio between omega-3 and omega-6. It's one, we would like 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. But if you are 1, and some people are 20, 30, because 6 we are getting, and 6 is what this arachidonic acid, which gives you the inflammation. You want to ensure that whatever omegas you're having, it has the lowest, or the EPA and the DHA, to ensure you're getting more 3, because you are trying to have that balance where the bad oils, bad fats, all of that is going to give you 6, and then the body tends to keep that. So that ratio is also very important to know. There are tests these days actually with the blood.
There's lots of the testing. Testing is the key. I'm a huge fan of testing, personalization, because we're just, especially in this country where we are lucky to have a national health service, but it's very much on averages and I think an efficiency, which is great. But I think to get optimum health, we absolutely need to know our own personal situation, and then
absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. There's a really good comment here. Yes, I totally agree. I'll stop using the word biohack. You're right, because hacking is quite a tough word, isn't it?
You don't need to hack if you practice.
You don't hack. Optimization, I much prefer that. Thank you.
Yeah. And for us, we tell people that the whole purpose of Kamalaya is to put you in a practice.
Yeah. So I'll bear that in mind when I use the word biohacking. Gopal, we've run out of time. We could go on and on, because
absolutely,
a fabulous subject, and there is so much to talk about here. Yeah. We could do like a 5-hour training on vagus nerve.
But biology itself is very powerful.
Yeah, it is complex, but you have managed, thank you very much, to simplify it for us and to help us understand how important it is to have vagal tone. You have given us some practices which are easily done. It just takes commitment you know, like we could do those every day. I try and do them every day since I've discovered all of this in my own with my own low HRV. I'm really committed to it, and it just takes that commitment to do that every day. And I urge anyone who can to go to Kamalaya and do the whole thing, because it's wonderful with everything included in there, you know, all those practices plus the neuromodulation. So that's really interesting, because then you can really optimize all of that. Wonderful. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. My passion, so I'm glad we could do it.
Yeah, no, it's great. Thank you for sharing your passion.